I've been trying to call. I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love. Maybe I'm going through withdrawals. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn it on with just a touch, baby. I look around and since it's cold and empty, no one's around to judge me. I can't see clearly when you're gone. And I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep right until I feel your heart touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm running out of time, 'cause I can see the sun light up the sky. So I hit the road in overdrive, baby. Hit the road in overdrive. This city's cold and empty. No one's around to judge me. I can't see clearly when you're gone. And I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your heart touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm coming back to let you know I can never say it on the phone. But when I let it go this time, I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya. Feels like it's picking on me.
We meet again on the Two Tone Talk podcast, the Two Tone Talk by God pod. I'm your host, Brad Steele. December 26th, 2023. I may be the last one to do it, so let me be the last one to wish you all a Merry Christmas. We don't normally do episodes on Tuesday, but Christmas fell on a Monday. Didn't want to do an episode on Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you had a great day. Anybody get any good merch, any good Titans merchandise under the tree for you yesterday? Or whatever team you root for? This jersey waiting for me. This is the Oilers throwback Jeffrey Simmons jersey. As a matter of fact, every other jersey that I have either belongs to a player that is already gone from the Titans or is about to be, most likely. Kevin Byard jersey, an A.J. Brown jersey, and 2 Derrick Henry jerseys. So I needed somebody that was going to be here for the next little bit. And so I've got the Oilers throwback Big Jeff Simmons jersey. Hope everybody got something good. I got some other Titans merch too, but put on the Big Jeff jersey for the episode today. So, the Titans played a football game the other day. Tennessee Titans played a football game on Christmas Eve against the Seattle Seahawks, in which they competed, man. They went out there and tried. And they lost 20-17 in the final seconds. They fall to 5-10, and as we know, the Titans needed to lose this game. They need to lose all of their remaining games, and that sucks. Because when the Titans scored the touchdown late to go ahead, I was like, oh, come on. Like, I found myself angry that we had scored a touchdown. I was like, why did we do that? They'd lose. But in any event, the Titans did lose. The Seahawks target Trey Avery on that last game-winning drive or what? They went right at cornerback Trey Avery and said, we dare you to stop us. And he did not. Ryan Tannehill started quarterback. In case there was anybody left that felt like we made the wrong decision going away from Tannehill, going to Levis, I hope this game opened your eyes a little bit. Now, I understand Tannehill has to deal with the exact same problems when he's in there that Levis does. Offensive line's just atrocious, and, you know, there's not really too much weapons on the outside, but still, that last drive, when the Titans were 12 yards from field goal range, 12 yards from an opportunity to tie the game and send it to overtime, I mean, he actually had protection, and Tannehill just held on to the ball too long. He's just standing there with the ball. We have no timeouts. He's just standing there with the ball. Like, bro, you got to get rid of it. If ain't nobody open, you got to get rid of the thing. But in any event, the Titans needed to lose, and they lost. They've got 2 games left, and there are going to be some fans, I already know, there are going to be some fans who say, you know what? Wouldn't it be great for the Titans to play spoiler for either the Houston Texans or the Jacksonville Jaguars? Wouldn't that be great for us to play spoiler for one of those teams and ruin their playoff hopes? I mean, listen, there's a part of that that would be funny. Yes, it would be funny if the Titans ruined the playoff hopes of one of those 2 teams, especially Jacksonville, considering how last season went when we melted down and they came back to win the division. If we, after seeing them melt down for the last month, if we were the reason Jacksonville missed the playoffs, yeah, that would be hilarious. It really would be funny. But more than trying to play spoiler for those 2 teams, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking ahead to the draft. And the Titans on over the weekend, they moved up from pick 9 to pick 7. They are currently slated to pick number 7 in the draft. We needed a little more help from the Giants last night that we did not get. Needed a little help from the Chargers against the Bills over the weekend, which we did not get. But, hey, those 2 teams, maybe there's a game or 2 they could win over these last 2 weeks. The Titans are number 7, and if they keep on losing, I still think that they could sneak in to the top 5 of the draft and have their pick of which left tackle they want. Some people are still holding out hope for Marvin Harrison. I'm telling you, Marvin Harrison, I think, is a fever dream. I think Marvin Harrison is probably going to be one of the first 3 picks, and I don't think the Titans can get up that high. But in any event, Titans lost, and it you know, as far as things that I was encouraged about, as far as things that I walked away from that Seahawks game saying, hey, I liked that. I liked offensively, I once again liked what I saw from Tyjae Spears. In the pass game especially. You know, reminds me a lot, you know those running backs over the years, Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead. There's a name for you. You probably hadn't heard in a while. You saw Reggie Bush do this kind of stuff when he's in the NFL. I love the way that Spears is used in the pass game. We saw that on that Monday night game against Miami. Spears very involved in the pass game out of the backfield. And I think that's going to be such a huge role for him next year, whether Derrick Henry is still with the Titans or not. I think that is going to be such a huge role for him. And I love what I saw from Spears. I have been very encouraged by the play of Chig Okonkwo here late in the season. I think that he got off to a rocky start. I think there were a lot of us that were disappointed in how slow his season was going, but I'm glad to see that Chig Okonkwo has he's kind of had a late season surge, playing better. Obviously got his first touchdown of the year on Sunday on the throw from Derrick, and so I'm encouraged about him. I think there's still good reason for optimism for Chig going into next season. I still think Chig Okonkwo can still build on, what we saw from him in his rookie year. I think he started to figure it out here late in the season. As far as Treylon Burks, I mean, he had a few catches, but you're still waiting to see something from him that would make you feel good about him going forward, and I still haven't seen it. I still haven't seen anything from Treylon that makes me say, man, he's still going to be a big-time guy for us. I want to see the Titans bring back D-Hop. I want to see the Titans pick up a free agent wide receiver. I want to see them draft a wide receiver at some point, because I just feel like for Treylon Burks to be a first-round draft pick, and now in 2 years, we're still waiting to see him I would argue, we at least saw flashes in year one. I think Treylon has flat out regressed in year two. It's not even like you're seeing the same amount of production you were. It's not even that. Obviously he's been injured for a large chunk of the year, but even when he's in there, it's just we can't seem to get him the ball. And whether that's a protection issue or a quarterback issue or a Treylon issue, it's an issue. And we don't have any trouble getting Hopkins the ball. This is a situation where DeAndre Hopkins, if you remember, he was brought in to be wide receiver 2 initially. We kind of viewed it as Treylon was going to be wide receiver 1, and D-Hop was going to be what we wanted Julio Jones to be years ago for A.J. Brown. Instead, Hopkins has completely overtaken him as wide receiver 1, and Chris Moore has probably overtaken him to be wide receiver 2. Now, I still think Treylon's a talented guy, and I'm not giving up hope. He's still young, but, I don't blame you if you're a Titans fan and you're concerned about this guy. Kyle Phillips, what has happened? I thought he was giving us pretty good production, and now he's never even, he's always not playing. I don't know what the deal is there, but we've got some comments coming in the chat. Volcano says, Brad, if you ask me, this play action run heavy scheme has got to go. I think you could deal with less of it. I think that in large part the reason the Titans run so much play action is because their offensive line is so bad. Mike Vrabel has said before that he doesn't feel like we can just straight up drop back and throw the ball because we can't protect the quarterback. And I'm not going to argue with him there. I think he is probably correct. So we have to have that play action. Titan South says, hopefully we bring in Ayuk from San Francisco or T. Higgins. I'd be great with either one of them, but is Ayuk, is he even a free agent? I don't know what the situation is there, but T. Higgins is going to be a free agent. I'm not convinced that Cincinnati's not going to bring him back, but I would love to have T. Higgins, as I'm sure a lot of teams would. Insider Evan says, I feel like I'm alone here, but I'd like to go get a veteran offensive lineman in free agency rather than drafting 2 to 3 new guys. I just don't want half of our drafts to consist of O-line with all. I think realistically, I would say I could see the Titans drafting 2 offensive linemen across the course. I think they'll go offensive linemen in the first round. I think, we currently don't have a 3rd-round pick, which, I mean, we were just talking about Treylon Burks. Is there a chance that the Titans could try to see if they could get a 3rd-round pick for Treylon? Volcano said, Brad, do you think there's a chance the Titans turn around to be a good team? I mean, there's a very good chance. I think, you build around Will Levis. You've got a lot of money to spend. You're going to have a high draft pick. There's absolutely reason to believe that this team could be considerably better next year, depending on who they bring in the offseason. And they're going to have a chance to bring in a lot of different guys because of the money we have and because of the draft position. But Volcano also said Will Levis and Treylon Burks aren't on the same page every single game. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, we said the same thing about Treylon and Tannehill. Treylon and Tannehill couldn't get on the same page. Now Treylon and Will can't get on the same page. I don't know, man. I don't know. I hope Treylon figures it out. I really do. Evan brings up a good point that I want to talk about. That he saw a fun little stat earlier that 7 of the Titans' 10 losses have been by 1 score this year. That's very true. And that brings up an interesting point that in the NFL, even the teams who are bad are not that far off. You know what I'm saying? You look at teams like New England, you look at teams like Washington, you look at teams like Tennessee, even to some degree Arizona. Yeah, they've lost a heck of a lot more than they've won, and yet you look back, and if a few things go different along the way, we could be having a much different conversation. I've said it about the Titans, even this year with the roster that's not very good, they should have beaten the Saints in week 1. The refs robbed us of a touchdown, if you remember, but also, Tannehill was atrocious in that game, and there was a lot going on. I still think we should have beaten the Steelers. I think we should have beaten the Colts the second time. I think we should have beaten Houston the second time. It's just a little thing here or there. And we could be having a much different conversation. But yes, the Titans, even as bad as their roster is, even as bleak as things seem, the Titans have been in most of these games. There have only been a couple where they got flat out beat bad. But about 90% of NFL games are within 1 score. You know what I'm saying? That's why we love the NFL, is because no matter what the records are, it's usually always competitive. I mean, it's usually, even if it's the best team versus the worst team, this isn't like college football. In college football, if the best team plays the worst team, they'll beat them by 100 points. But if the NFL has the best team play the worst team, the best team could lose. We see it all the time. We just saw the other night. Who had the Patriots beating the Broncos on Christmas Eve night? Anybody? Nobody did. But they did it. They did it. So that's why we love the NFL. But, it hurts at the end of the season when you look back on the losses that you have and you say, well, if we could have just done this in that Saints game or done that in that Colts game, man, we could be sitting here having a much different conversation. Facts are we didn't do those things. And the reason we didn't do those things are because we just don't have the roster that a lot of other teams have, And that brings up an interesting point, because I want to, this is not so much a Titans issue, but this is just an issue I see across the league that it really stood out to me, because you look at the MVP conversation as it has raged on this season. And at one point, everybody was talking about Jalen Hurts as the MVP. And then that ship kind of sailed, and then everybody was talking about Dak Prescott as the MVP. And then that ship sailed. And then everybody was talking about Brock Purdy as the MVP. And last night, that ship sailed. And now everybody's talking about Lamar Jackson as the MVP. That's my pick right now. But if you wanted to give it to McCaffrey or Josh Allen, I wouldn't argue with you. But either way, I got to thinking about a clip that I saw of the great Tom Brady talking about the current NFL product. And so many of you have probably seen this same clip where Brady pretty much says that there's a there's a lot of bad football being played. That's what Brady said. He said there's a lot of bad football being played in the NFL at a lot of different positions. And he talked about the fact that, there are quarterbacks out here who are trying, it's kind of like the NBA. We're not trying to complete passes. We're trying to draw penalties. I think about, and God bless him, I have nothing against Gardner Minshew, but you think about the Colts-Steelers game from last week where Michael Pittman took that really scary hit because he was led into a position where he was in danger of getting, hit. And Brady was saying, hey, that's poor quarterback play. He was saying, hey, a part of being quarterback is you don't put your receivers in position to get hurt like that. You consider it your responsibility to make sure these guys aren't in a position to take a horrible hit and get hurt. Brady even said, when we used to play against Ray Lewis, I didn't want to throw it over the middle because I didn't want anybody to get hurt. And he just talked about the poor play that he's seeing right now and that players are not playing quarterback the way that he and some of the other guys did. And that's such an interesting thing to me because if you look at quarterback play in the NFL right now, what quarterbacks do you trust right now to go out there every single week and tear it up? Right now, I would probably trust Lamar Jackson. I would probably trust Josh Allen, even though Josh Allen, leads the league in interceptions. So, he puts the ball in danger, but it usually works out for him. Other than those guys, Patrick Mahomes is not looking too hot right now. Let's think here. Tua does some good things, but I wouldn't trust Tua to just go out on any given day and tear it up. Jalen Hurts, a little bit of the steams wore off of that. Dak Prescott, I think a little bit of the steams wore off of that. Brock Purdy, a lot of the steams wore off of that. It's just so inconsistent, right? It's so these guys could put on good performances, but they could very well follow it up with a stinker. And it gets me thinking back to the generation before them. When Tom Brady took the field, and you guys in the chat, depending on your age, you correct me if I'm wrong, but when Tom Brady took the field, you pretty much knew he was probably going to play well. He may have had a couple games a year where he wasn't totally on, but usually when Tom Brady took the field, you knew he's going to put his team in a position to win. You didn't tune into SportsCenter and have reporters sitting there saying, is Tom Brady the guy? Is Tom Brady still the answer for the Patriots? No, you never had that discussion. And it goes beyond, Peyton Manning. You knew Peyton Manning was going to play well just about any time he came out there. There was no doubt. Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger. These are guys, when they went out there, you knew they're probably going to have their team in a position to win. They may not win every week. There may be a couple times a year where they flat out don't look good. But most of the time, you're going to get good quarterback play from those guys. Nowadays, it's up in the air every week. There is so much inconsistency. And as I look at a guy like Will Levis, we were going ahead. We were crowning Trevor Lawrence before this season. We were crowning Trevor Lawrence as the next big thing. We were looking at him and saying he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. He's been horrible. And I'm not just saying it because it's Jacksonville and I want to pick on Jacksonville. No, I'm saying this just as a watcher of football. Trevor Lawrence has been bad pretty much all year. So as I look at all of these new guys who have come in, obviously I look at Will Levis, I look at CJ Stroud. I know Anthony Richardson has really missed most of the year, but I look at him. I look at whoever's going to come in this year. We know Caleb Williams is going to be coming into the league. We know that, Drake May and Bo Nix and Michael Penix and whoever else, the Jaden Daniels from LSU. As we look at the young quarterbacks in the league, I hope that we can get back to a place where we don't have to rethink the MVP discussion every single week because the quarterback that we had crowned as the new great quarterback is now wetting the bed and is out of the race. I'm not just looking for guys that can play well half the time. I mean, I hope, especially for Will Levis, this is a Titans podcast, so we'll just make it about Will in particular. I really hope that he is able to figure out how to be good consistently. Because I think in today's NFL, that could be the difference maker, is having a quarterback who can consistently go out there and have you in position to win the game. Not just half the time, not just some of the time, but most of the time, if not all of the time, is going to go out there and have you in position to win. That's what my hope is for Will Levis as we go forward. And I don't think Levis should play again this season because I don't want this offensive line to get him killed. But, I just hope that he can come back next year and have that kind of consistency that Brady and Manning and Rivers and Breeze and those guys before him, that those guys had, that you could look at and say, that quarterback's going to have us in position to win. We may not win. He's going to have help, but, and I think the best way to do that is to stock this team up with talent. I am sick of putting guys out there who are just gritty practice squad players that we, play hard. I have no doubt the Titans play hard. I watched them play hard the other day. Christmas Eve against Seattle, they played hard. I don't question the heart of the Titans, but you got to have talent. And you got to have big-time talent. You got to have talent at the wide receiver position. You got to have talent on the offensive line. Yeah, these guys are playing hard. I have no doubt that Dillard and Jalen Duncan, I have no doubt they're playing hard. They're working. But you've got to get guys in here who have the skill, not just to hang on for dear life, but to thrive. So that a young quarterback like Will Levis can have a legit chance to be successful. And I think that's a large part of why you see quarterbacks in the league today who play so inconsistent. Because it's not just the Titans. Good protection is hard to find. You want to know why Lamar Jackson is having his best season right now? Because I don't know if you've watched, but this Ravens offensive line, they give him time. There are times where Lamar Jackson has time to stand back there and take a nap if he wants to. And, there are so many teams in the league who, the quarterbacks snap the ball and then they're running for dear life. So I just hope that the Titans this offseason can acquire free agents and draft picks and trades and whatever else to really put this offense on Will Levis and say, we're going to give you everything we can. We're going to give you the best offensive line we can possibly build. We're not just going to throw one together and hope that it works. We're not just going to get you some wide receivers off the practice squad and hope it works. No, we're going to get the best talent that we can get in here to help you. That's what I hope to see. Offensively, I was encouraged by what I saw from Spears and Okonkwo. Some people are having some real questions about Peter Skoronski. I think that's a little overblown. Yes, he's missed some blocks along the way, but you got to remember he's a rookie too. And he's a rookie who's having to account for a terrible offensive line around him where if you watch Skoronski sometimes, he's having to help the center, help the left tackle, help himself. You know, and sometimes I've seen Skoronski run all the way to the other side to help the right tackle, you know? So I'm not too worried about him. But, you know, I defensively, there were guys, I mean, you know, we've put a lot of guys on injured reserve here at the end of the year, and we've had to fill the roster with guys in their place. And so there are a lot of guys making tackles the other day, and I had no idea who they even were. Like, they called out somebody. I was like, what? Who is that? Some linebacker. You know, we got Marlon Davidson on the defensive line, pretty much taking Jeffrey Simmons' spot. He made a couple nice plays, but it's like these are guys that I'm looking at, and I'm like, they're not even going to be on the roster when training camp rolls around. These are just guys filling the role for these last few weeks just to get us to the end of the year, right? But with that being said, I have been very encouraged by Arden Key in the way he's played as of late. I think Arden Key, honestly, I think Arden Key has quietly had a pretty good season. You know, I think that there have been some games where he kind of disappeared and you wondered where the heck's he been, but overall, I think Arden Key has had a pretty good season. I think Harold Landry has downright gotten to the point where he looks like Harold Landry again. So that's good news. I think there are some guys on this defense that the Titans are going to have to make decisions about, and I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about Azeez Al-Shaair, the linebacker? I mean, sometimes sometimes he does some nice stuff. Sometimes it leaves some to be desired. Obviously, we have a need at corner. Assuming Christian Fulton's not back, I don't know if Sean Murphy-Bunning's going to be back, but obviously Trey Avery is not. That's not your answer. I think Roger McCreary is a good slot corner, and that's about it. But the Titans, you know, linebacker's going to be a need too, but corner, outside of offensive line, I actually think corner is the biggest need on the team. So I'd be looking at that, but I don't know what the free agent market looks like for corners this offseason. I have not totally, I mean, you got to think, if the Titans end up in the 7, 8, 9 range, if they were to end up in a place in the draft where both of those offensive tackles are gone by the time they pick, meaning Joe Alt's already been picked and Fashanu's already been picked, I haven't totally eliminated the idea that the Titans could take a corner. They could take Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, maybe. They're in the first round. I doubt it. I mean, my gut feeling is they'll go offensive tackle, but they could go corner because obviously there's a great need there. But I will say, I think the defense, especially for the Titans, no matter who's out there, they get after it. They play hard, and they came up short the other day, but I thought it was clear, and that's what I said, you know, on Twitter, go follow me over there at @twotone_podcast. You know, we talk about tanking, and the fans know it's in our best interest to lose the rest of the games, but I do hate it for the players, because these players are not trying to tank. These players, they're putting their bodies through too much to go out there and intentionally lose. So, I mean, these are players that are trying to win, and I do hate it for the players because this was another close loss. This was another bummer of a loss that came down to the end, and one or two things didn't go your way and you lost. And that has to suck for them. That has to suck for guys like Danico Autry, who are playing their butts off and just coming up short. Guys like DeAndre Hopkins, guys like Tyjae Spears, guys like Azeez Al-Shaair, who, no matter how you feel about their technique or whatever, these guys are giving it all they've got. They come up short. And for the fans, we look at it and we say, okay, well, we needed to lose for that draft position. But for them, you know, they're trying to win because this is what they do for a living. And they want to win, and they want to celebrate winning, and they came up short again. So even though I know it's necessary, I do hate it for the players. I do hate it for the players. I was asked, how long are you giving Vrabel until you're out on it? I mean, I think this next season's gonna tell the story. I think they're going to give Vrabel and Rand Carthon a chance to build the roster that they want. I think I've said it in the past. I think they likely blame all of this on John Robinson. And I mean, the largest part of it, the blame does belong with John Robinson. It was his responsibility to build the roster. That's not Vrabel's responsibility. Or it wasn't when J-Rob was here. It was not Vrabel's responsibility to build the roster. That was John Robinson's responsibility, and he did a bad job. He did a bad job. He made some decisions that are inexcusable, and I think Amy Adams Strunk and company, I think they blame it all on him, and that means they're going to give Vrabel and Rand Carthon, especially this offseason with all this money and draft picks they're going to have, they're going to give them a chance to right the ship. And I don't think it was realistic to expect them to do it this year because we didn't have as much money over the offseason. I mean, you take a chance on guys like Andre Dillard and Daniel Brunskill, but ultimately at the end of the day, they had enough to grab Hopkins and to grab Arden Key, and that's about it. But this offseason, there's going to be a real chance. So if they come back next year and they suck again, well then it's probably time for, some changes to be made coaching-wise. But, and I'll talk more about it when we get to the end of the year, but when the history books are written about this Titans team, the number one reason that this season, in my opinion, that this season has turned out how it has is the offensive line. I think this offensive line, more than anything, more than play calling, more than coaching, more than anything, the offensive line and the poor play of the offensive line is the reason. You can't do anything offensively when you have no protection. It hinders everything. It hinders running the ball. It hinders throwing the ball. It hinders it all. You're constantly behind the eight ball when your offensive line is terrible. And I think they hoped that Andre Dillard would come in and be the knight in shining armor. He has not been. It just didn't work out. He was not what they wanted him to be. Daniel Brunskill, who they brought in to play right guard, he's been all right. I don't think he's lit the world on fire, but he's been okay. But ultimately, you put together this makeshift offensive line and you hope it's going to work, but it didn't. It didn't. Let's talk about some of the other games that happened since we last recorded. Saturday, I didn't see this coming. The Steelers whooped the Bengals 34-11. And this guy, this receiver for the Steelers here, George Pickens, 4 receptions, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty solid game. Pretty solid game. So the Steelers are right back in the playoff hunt. And I'll be honest, man. Let me say this while I'm talking about the Steelers. Talking about coaches. We were just talking about Vrabel. There were people trying to sail Mike Tomlin down the river. I have been vocal on this podcast. I'm not a Steelers fan. I don't have any, the Steelers are not like my team that I love. But I think Mike Tomlin is a great coach. And I think it was ridiculous for anybody to be talking about the Steelers letting him go. I think Mike Tomlin's a great coach. I think the fact that he has this team at 8-7 with any chance to make the playoffs at this point in the season is phenomenal. And if the Steelers let him go, some other team would pick him up immediately and be better off for it. I think that was nuts that people wanted them to get rid of Mike Tomlin. But that being said, the Steelers, I don't know. This was not, I thought the Steelers were horrible. And most weeks they look horrible, but not this week. Bills snuck one over the Chargers, man. The Chargers, the Titans actually needed the Chargers to win this game, so I wish the Chargers had won, but the Bills get the win, and they're continuing to roll. I thought the Bills were going to have a realistic shot to win their division. Going to be tough, though, because I thought the Dolphins, the Dolphins could still lose to the Ravens this week, but we'll see. But the Bills, they get the win over the Chargers. Chargers officially eliminated from playoff contention, but we already figured that. Browns all over the Texans, 36-22. I mean, the Browns dominated this game, and I knew they would. I mean, just the idea of Case Keenum going against that Browns defense, I mean, you just knew. And I'm telling you something. In terms of the AFC, you better not go to sleep on the Browns. I know they got Joe Flacco. I know, but like, first of all, to me, Kevin Stefanski should be the coach of the year. Second of all, I mean, I trust the Browns a heck of a lot more than I trust the Chiefs. I trust the Browns a heck of a lot more than I trust the Jaguars. Really, I mean, I'd put them third in the AFC right now behind the Ravens and the Dolphins. I mean, the Browns are not going to be an easy out for anybody. With that defense in the playoffs, they're not going to be an easy out. And it looks like they're going to be going on the road to take on whoever wins the AFC South. And with the way things are looking with those teams in the AFC South, I think the Browns would probably smoke any of them. I mean, I'll give the Texans the benefit of the doubt. They didn't have C.J. Stroud the other day, but maybe with Stroud they'd hang in there. But I think the Browns would beat any of those AFC South teams. The Jets beat the Commanders. This was important for the Titans because now the Titans have jumped the Jets in the draft order. This was a crazy game, by the way, and I wonder what Washington's going to do in the offseason because they benched Sam Howell. They brought in Jacoby Brissett. Brissett nearly brought him back, but then the Jets ended up kicking the field goal at the end. And so I expect the Commanders will go with Brissett these last 2 weeks and then make a decision over the offseason about what they're going to do quarterback-wise. Falcons all over the Colts 29-10. Now, this is another one. I did not see this coming. I thought the Colts would win this game. But they looked horrible. And I think there is a case to be made that the Colts are a little bit fraudulent because, yes, they've been winning, but they've been playing some dookie-poo teams. And I thought Atlanta was just going to be another dookie-poo team on their schedule, but Atlanta whooped them. And Atlanta very much keeps their playoff hopes alive. So we'll see how things go there. Obviously, the Bucs are red hot right now, but the Colts, this was a terrible loss for them, and it was a terrible loss for Houston too, because you could have taken the lead in the division, but you didn't. And Falcons beat the Colts 29-10. Huge win for Atlanta, tough loss for the Colts. Packers beat the Panthers 33-20 or 33-30. I'm going to talk about the Panthers a little bit more in a second, but Packers beat the Panthers 33-30. Packers, I think, are still alive in the playoff hunt, and the Panthers lose again. Lions, you know what? The Lions beat the Vikings 30-24, and the Lions have won their division for the first time in 30 years. 1993, the very year that I was born. That was the last year that the Detroit Lions won their division until now. You gotta feel good for Detroit Lions fans. They have been through some misery over the years. Good for them. And, I mean, you want to talk about an easy team to root for in the playoffs? Root for the Lions. I mean, their fans they have been miserable for 30 years. Go Lions. Good job, guys. The Bucs freaking killed the Jaguars 30-12. And I'm telling you, the Jaguars have completely fallen apart. And I don't know what's going to happen, but they play the Carolina Panthers this week, and I'm picking them to win. I think the Jaguars will beat them, but is it completely far-fetched to think that the Panthers could beat the Jaguars right now? The Jags look terrible. Awful. They look lost. I knew there was a chance the Bucs could beat them, but the Bucs dominated them. And after all of those weeks of everybody talking about how the AFC South looked suddenly so much better than normal, all of a sudden we look like the worst division in football again. Because Jacksonville looks like Jacksonville. Indianapolis has shown they can really look bad. And Houston, albeit because of all the injuries that they have, they've kind of looked rough too. And of course, the Titans look bad. So, man, I don't know what's going to happen with the AFC South. My gut feeling is Jacksonville will still find a way to pull it out because they closed the season against Carolina and then us, Tennessee. I feel like they should win both of those, but I don't know. They look bad. Bears over the Cardinals 27-16. This was an important game for Titans draft-wise because the Bears were the other team that we jumped over to get to number 7 in the draft. And the Bears, I think, are they still alive? I think they're still alive with an outside shot at the playoffs. So we'll see. That's good news for the Titans, though, because the Bears will still be trying to win. So that's good. But it doesn't really matter. We've already passed them anyway. Dolphins over the Cowboys in a great game. And this was a huge win for the Dolphins. I mean, I think that was what people were saying about the Dolphins. They haven't beat anybody good. Well, they have now. And, the Cowboys, 2 weeks ago, everybody was so high on the Cowboys. And look how they followed it up. Gotten absolutely whooped last week. And then this week they come back and lose to Miami. And we'll see. But now, I mean, I think it's the Eagles' division to lose. The Eagles now have the lead again in that division. And the Cowboys, I think after all of that, the Cowboys are still going to be a wild card team. Patriots over the Broncos, 26-23. This was a wild game if anybody watched it. Patriots were up 23-7 at the start of the fourth quarter, and then the Broncos scored 16 unanswered, came back, and then the Patriots kicked a field goal at the end and won. And, the Patriots, I have not totally ruled out the fact that the Titans could potentially jump the Patriots in the draft because the Patriots are 4-11, the Titans are 5-10, and the Patriots have a couple. They play the Jets in the last week of the season that they could beat the Jets. If they do, I don't know how tiebreakers and stuff like that work out, but hey, we more than one way we could get into that top 5. Raiders beat the Chiefs 20-14. Chiefs look bad, man, and I don't know. We know they don't have a lot of talent at wide receiver, but Mahomes is frustrated. Travis Kelce's throwing his helmet on the sideline, throwing a tantrum. I don't know what's going on, but these Chiefs look rough. Eagles beat the Giants 33-25. Let me talk about this real quick. A.J. Brown refused to talk to reporters after this game. He said he had nothing nice to say. Frustrated. Mad. His team won, by the way. They're first place in their division, by the way. With the 49ers losing last night, the Eagles now have a legitimate shot to still be the number 1 seed in the NFC, by the way, but AJ's mad. He don't want to talk to reporters. Is that not a terrible look? Your team won. You are 11-4. You could very well be the number 1 seed in the NFC. You are still a contender to go to the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. And you're pitching a fit. That's ridiculous. And then the Ravens whooped up on the 49ers last night. I mean, I don't know. It's what I was talking about with these quarterbacks, with the inconsistencies. Brock Purdy, man, we were all about it. But then something like last night happens and you go, maybe not. I know when Sam Darnold got in there in his place late in the game, he looked pretty good. Makes you wonder if this 49ers offense is just kind of a plug and play, put anybody in there, they can do it. I still think the 49ers are going to be fine in the playoffs. I still think they're arguably the team to beat in the NFC, but one team looked like they wanted to be there last night, and one team did not. And the final score can tell you which one's which. That is week 16. We got 2 weeks left of the regular season. 2 Titans games left. Titans are at Houston On Sunday, I would expect C.J. Stroud to be back for that game. He's missed 2 in a row. Houston needs him to be back. I mean, this is an important game for Houston. They're still in a 3-way tie at the top of the AFC South. This is an important game for Houston, and the Titans need to lose it. So we'll see. Hey, everybody be on the lookout. I'm hoping to have some Two-Tone Talk merch coming your way that could greatly help out the channel. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, this is the Two-Tone Talk podcast where we're staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I will be back Friday previewing all of the Week 17 action, talking about the playoffs, talking about what the Titans need to do, I guess, to lose to the Houston Texans. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Tighten up. This is the Two-Tone Talk by God Pod. Bye, everybody.
But trying to please everybody, that ain't no way to be. So many people try to get you to fit their mold. I think it's time for a change.